Good evening, everybody. This is Andrew with Team and Ambitions Chat. You can find me on Instagram at thelordoc503. Joining me tonight is the one and only sleepyGary, also known as Dylan
Hello.
Lindner. How you doing, Dylan?
Good, Senor Doctor. It is another great day in the land of Lorcana. I don't know about you. Well, I do know about you. We both went to locals on Tuesday, and I'm happy to say, not a Bucky to be cited. And you know what? It felt like a whole new meta. Insert
Bucky,
title song here.
I think we all collectively might have said good night to the squirrel. We still have 2 more weeks, everybody, but it almost feels like we are all ready to move on. Dylan, why don't you tell the lovely people where they can find you on your socials?
Yeah, definitely. You can find me at sleepyGary Games on Instagram. And yeah, pretty much that's it.
Today, we are starting our new series called Team and Finances. We're going to be talking about the finances of Lorcana and a little bit more of a deeper dive into the business of trading and of specific card values. You're going to hear a little bit about what to expect, what to predict for the future in terms of value, what cards you should be thinking about investing in, and what cards maybe you should be starting to let go or starting to get out of your collection.
Yeah, definitely is a good idea. And I do want to note too, as sort of a little bit of a disclaimer, like cards that we recommend people buy have no the cards that we own have no decision on what we recommend you to buy. It doesn't matter if I own 100 Rapunzels. I'm not going to recommend a Rapunzel unless I believe that they're actually going to go up. So we're not trying to get people like, oh, I've invested 5,000 copies of one drop Lilo and I'm telling people to buy them. That's not gonna how it's gonna be. We're gonna give you the cold hard facts, and we're not gonna let what we personally own influence that decision.
Why don't we go ahead and start with a general conversation, a general topic, which is the current popular decks of the format. We already know one of the popular decks was the Bucky deck, the green steel deck. It is well known for being very powerful, but also well known for being rather expensive. Once you start doing the math, you had Sad Beast or Beast Tragic Hero, you had Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, you had Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy, you had Diablo itself, of course.
Yep.
I believe the last estimate of that deck was around $700, which is kind of shocking.
Non-foil.
Non-foil. One of the main decks that people kind of glue to is, of course, Ruby Amethyst. Partly known because of its reliability, but also partly known because of its affordable cost. I believe non-foil versions of that deck was about in the 200s.
Yeah, like 150 to 200, and also note too that it's just like it's all reliable because it's consistent, right? Bucky can feel a little high roll, you know, if you're not getting your Buckies and your early Floodborns, you tend to lose the game. Red Purple kind of has skin in the game as long as it gets to keep doing what it wants to do.
But what makes them so expensive? And Dylan, you kind of alluded to it, which is the desirability of foils. You want to dive into a little bit about the foil market?
Yeah, definitely. So I am a firm believer of cold foils, cold foils, cold foils. We're gonna get into a little bit later, but even like enchanted market is actually really going down right now. And cold foils are going up. And if you kind of think about it, one in every case is loosely almost guaranteed an enchanted, right? But a specific meta cold foil that you want is what? If there's a 200 cards in a set, that means you have, you know, and every card's a cold foil. I don't know the math behind that, but it's like even rarer than enchantment to, let's say, get like a cold foil Robin Hood, which is a specific cold foil in Legendary. So that's why cold foils are maintaining the price, and I'm a firm believer of it, especially because, you know, who doesn't like a little shiny to bling out their decks? You know, maybe you're getting on the camera on DLCs and they're like, oh man, I can't see your cards, but I bet they look expensive.
I'm also a firm believer of cold foils and playing with cold foils. That is my personal preference of cards I like to play, not just because like they're shiny. I just like the cards. I think the foils of this game look very, very good. There are several shocking foils in addition to just general foils that you would expect to be high just because it's a popular card, and because the corresponding non-foil is also popular. I think one of them currently that is just shocking is Maui, Hero of All.
Yeah, definitely. Meta staple, Maui kind of staple of red cards everywhere. He's ruby and everything, and I think the non-foils currently are around like 15. Non-foil Mauis are $15 and going up. Like if we look at the graph, you can see just a steady increase of Mauis and stuff. And they haven't printed a card better than him. I mean, they've kind of printed his little baby brother, Hercules, aka Maui at Home, which is great and all. But yeah, if you look right here, cold foil Mauis are getting bought out again. We have a couple listings at $25, and then it goes to 30, and then onward. So like, cold foils, man, people love them, and I don't blame them. They look great.
It is not just exclusive to the rares and the super rares. That includes other cards such as Madame Medusa. Like a non-foil Madame Medusa is still relatively cheap. A foil is still pushing over $10. Rabbits, of course. Merlin Goat is still on the expensive side. Madam Mim Fox is still on the expensive side, but one of the cards that I just did not expect to be as high as it is Chernobog's Followers. This is a card for the longest time as a cold foil was $1. Last set, very much $1. Look at them now. They are solidly in the 6-7 range, and it is shocking to me.
And also, even the non-cold foils are hitting $2 plus shipping. So you're basically paying, almost $3 per Chernobog's Follower, which is insane. Like, it's an uncommon. Some people were buying cold foils for like more than $5, which is crazy. So I see someone paid $6 per cold foil, and like it's almost $7 now. Like, oh my gosh, an uncommon being that high. That's just almost like how One Jump Ahead at the peak of its playability went up to almost like $10-15 cold foil.
What is your take on foils, like in terms of tradability?
Yeah, so cold foils are really interesting. Basically, you have two sides of the coin. Players who have no interest in using cold foils and just want to get the cards that they will and have non-foil decks throughout. And then players like us who just want only cold foils, we want maximum bling. You tend to not have people who do this like half and half unless they're trying to foil out their deck and just can't find the cards yet. So it's been interesting because you get people who are just like, take them. I don't want them. Don't need them. I only want to play non-foils. And then you have people who are like, I need them. I need all of them. It's good if you don't need them, but bad if you want them because then you're fighting with a bunch of people who also want them.
Definitely cards that you should keep into your trade binder, especially if you're looking to finish out your legendary sets, if you're looking to finish out your master sets. They have a lot of value, sometimes up to 5-6 times their non-foil value. You can get a playset of some cards just from the foil. It is honestly ridiculous. Any other popular decks that you think are going to start having the same foil non-foil dilemma, even more so?
Yeah, and I think this also will transition us into like another talking point, which is the impact of Bucky. The change around Bucky, I think, has definitely affected the meta, and I think we're going to see the rise of Amber Steelsong. Good old, Ariel singing Whole New Worlds. We're back, boys. It looks like new cards are on the menu. And part of the DLC challenge, it didn't get first, but it did get second. And there was actually another list that also got fourth, which were 2 Amber Steelsong. So when's the last time you saw Amber Steelsong in, heck, even the top 50? I think Amber Steel is definitely eating. We'll get a little more into it later, but some of the spoiler cards that we've seen for the next set, which, by the way, incredible set. Actually, one of the more powerful sets, if not the most powerful compared to set 1. I think there's a lot of Amber cards that are way too cheap right now that people should definitely be buying, and if they have the chance to, get them in cold foils, because cold foils will always maintain their prices, even if non-foils do not.
We'll get into it in a different video when we do our Set 5 preview video of cards to look out for, but spoiler alert, Amber Steelsong definitely on the rise, and definitely will be back to rise again. You already alluded to Amber Steelsong being the deck. I am also looking at other cards that I think you're alluding to it, which is Amber. Amber as a whole.
Yes.
I think one of the interesting things is that if we look at the set 1, the first chapter price list of legendaries that are the most expensive, there's a very unique card at the top of the list, and that's Rapunzel. It is still Rapunzel. It is solidly at 30 in the 30s still, whereas every other legendary has fallen out of that. Belle is not. It does not surpass Rapunzel. Maleficent does not surpass Rapunzel. Why is Rapunzel still at the top if no one is playing these Amber decks?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I think there's a different factors to it. One is that Rapunzel is a popular character. It's a princess, right? And Belle is also a princess, but I think Rapunzel is a staple in all Amber decks where Belle is not. As you can see, like Blue Steel maybe plays 2 copies of her at best. Blue Red doesn't play her at all. But I have yet to see an Amber deck, unless they're like a Amber Amethyst aggro deck, that doesn't play some copies of Rapunzel, because turns out drawing cards is really busted in any game you play.
Any other decks that you're seeing to be on the rise, or potentially on the rise because of the Bucky ban? Not just in set 4, but maybe leading into set 5 a little bit.
Another deck, which I think it's going to be the theme of tonight, is another Amber deck. I'm personally a fan of the Amber Emerald Lemon Lime sort of sing together under the world combo deck. I know a lot of people who play that deck, and they say that Green Steel is definitively their worst matchup. It's so difficult to deal with. And now I think Green Steel is going to be on the downswing. I don't think it's a bad deck by any means. It's just not going to be as over the top as it is currently. And I do think that Lemon Lime sort of deck has legs. It still plays Diablo, which is an amazing card. It plays Ariel, which is an amazing card. And it plays like the only one-sided board wipe in the game, Under the Sea. For those you don't know, board wipes are things that clear the board, but in this case, Under Sea just gets rid of your opponent's stuff and not your own, so that way you maintain all the tempo and your opponent has none of it.
Yeah, any card that you see that we should probably be on the lookout for, because not a lot of people running the Lemon Lime Amber Emerald deck, partly because, why run Amber Emerald when you have Emerald Steel? But if Emerald Steel is not existent anymore and people still have the Emerald package, anything you see in particular from either the Amber side or maybe even still from the Emerald side that people can start looking into?
Yeah, definitely. And I think this is a great time to just delve right into the cards that I think people should be spending their money on before it spikes. And let's just talk about it because we already did it, which is Rapunzel. Look, she's around $38 to $40 right now. I think if you're looking for your playsets, you should just ponying it up now. I don't think it's going to be cheaper than it is right now. There are cases where Rapunzel does dip, but that's more towards the end of a format. And if you're looking to get your staples for Vegas, you should just be buying her now. Cold foils are $65. It's a little more expensive, but I don't think they're going to get any cheaper. She's an all-star staple, and I think she's going to be better than ever. Also Diablo, like if we look at Diablo, and I have no idea why people are just getting rid of their birds, like he's as low as, oh my gosh, he's $30 right now. $30. Remember when he was like 65, 50? He almost rivaled Sad Boy Beast as being the most expensive card right now, and he's $30. Look, I understand that Bucky got changed, but that doesn't mean Diablo got changed. He is still so oppressive, and he's a green staple in my opinion. I can't fathom green decks not playing him, and he's $30. That's absolutely insane. I buy your Diablos, and I think the cold foils are not even that much more expensive. Yeah, he's cold foil. He's $40 cold foil. Like honestly, $10 more to get a card that will for sure maintain its value is worth it in my opinion. If you can't, I understand, but really if you have that $10 extra to spare, buy your cold foil Diablos, because they were like $65, $70 like what, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, the real ones from Chicago know in the peak of what meta is going on just after the set 4 release. The real ones know you could sell your cold foil Diablo to a vendor for $60. That was absolutely
Really?
ridiculous, and the non-foil was pulling a 40.
Another card I want us to all look at is Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood. Big Robbie, as he's formerly known. He is around, we'll say like $38, maybe $39 on a good day. But if you look at these cold foils, Andrew, if you look at these cold foils, $43, $44. Are you telling me that a cold foil Robin Hood is really only worth $5 more than the non-foil? Are you gonna look at me in a straight face and be like, I don't want to pay $5 for a cold foil? That sounds insane. That's crazy. If you guys need Robin Hoods, just buy the cold foils. They will maintain their value. Robin Hood, in my opinion, is still going to be good in the next set. His stats are very insane. His shift cost is too cheap. Buy cold foil Robin Hoods. It's $5 more. You should just be picking them up like crazy. I don't know why these like Emerald Steelsong cards are just dropping like flies. Like all of a sudden they're just not good because Bucky got changed. That doesn't make any sense to me. And you guys as a viewer should be capitalizing on the fear that people have, like, oh, all of a sudden Robin Hood is bad because yeah, no other decks play him except for, you know, most steel decks. So I don't understand why prices are this low, but you should be buying at this low.
I want to shift my focus a little bit to kind of that same Amber idea, which is that, yes, there's going to be a lot of staple Amber cards like Rapunzel. There's a different Amber card that has been somewhat oppressed by Mr. Squirrel, and that is the leader of the lions himself, Mufasa. If we look at the chart here, ironically, during the entirety of the Bucky era, his price did not change at all. He's been solidly $15. Yeah. With the amount of support in set 4 that Amber Ruby got with Mulan, with that 3-drop beast that comes in damaged, and like all these other big things that are coming down the pipeline, why not Mufasa?
I definitely agree. And if we look at actually the non-cold foil graph, we can see that he's slowly trending up. There's only about 1 or 2 listings at about 15. Then he goes around to $17 and $18. And I think a bit of kinship to that is because people are expecting Red Purple, Ruby Amethyst to be one of the best decks coming out at set 5. People are expecting that's going to probably win it, which may or may not be true. But historically, a bad matchup for that deck has been Mufasa. So if you're expecting a lot of Red Purple, a lot of rabbits bouncing around, you know what hunts down a rabbit? A lion. So, and actually, this is going to be one of the few times I actually say you should maybe hold on to your cold foils if you need them. Obviously, buy them because they're not going to be any cheaper. But if we look at the cold foils, we have like 2 listings at 30, but they're $5 shipping, so it's more like 35. And then he's starting to hit $40 cold foil. And there's only 26 listings of this, so I think we're going to expect a big cold foil buyout for our betrayed leader. Of course, if you need the money, you know, sell them at, like, I value them around, I don't know, 38, 40 bucks, you know, because there's not many of them left. But if you can hold on and don't need the cash right away, I think you could probably hit 45 to 50 bucks in the next couple weeks.
I mean, as someone who loves this card and just love the randomness of it, I think it like exemplifies a lot of the fun of this game. I'm happy that he is still going to be, well, hopefully he's still going to be relevant. One color we're leaving out here, Dylan, is blue, Sapphire. We have not mentioned it much at all. We mentioned some Ruby, we mentioned some Amber, and all the other ones, of course. Anything you expect from blue in terms of either the current meta or maybe what's to come?
Sapphire is interesting space right now. We've seen some spoilers like the new Mufasa, which is very strong. The problem is, like, I don't see any archetypes that it really boosts up for cold foils that aren't already expensive. That's the big problem, right? Because with the new Merlin that you can shift on to other Merlins that lets you search for a card and put it to your hand, well, I could be like, oh, well, buy your Merlin stuff. The problem is Rabbit is like 25 bucks. Goat is also like up there. All these cold foils are already so expensive. So it's really hard to recommend because when Sapphire Ruby was so strong, all those cold foils skyrocketed. So unfortunately, Sapphire is kind of in an awkward spot because all the expensive cards have already kind of been bought up and already as peak price as they are.
I think my main thing is going to be focused on, ironically, blue chip stock cards. Like, if you see foil Hirams, I would say always pounce on them. They're not going to get any cheaper. I think Hiram is always going to be a relevant card. The foil's around $15. Even the non-foil is still relatively expensive. So it's a card that's just going nowhere. And basically every blue deck, well, almost every blue deck will play it. Great time to still get your 1-jumps if you need them. As red-blue possibly comes back into the mix because of the Bucky Errata, blue-red might make a comeback. It's still a very powerful deck when it wants to click. And one of the reasons that it didn't click was because it got discarded so fast. So those usual big blue ramp cards, Fishbone Quill, still a solid card to either invest in or get your foils in and just hold on to them, because I don't think they're going anywhere.
Hiram is arguably one of the best blue cards in the game, and I don't see him really going anywhere. But I do want to talk about cards that I think are undercosted, which, sorry, we're going to go back to Amber, and the reason why is because I think Amber is definitely, so far, the winning color of this set. Set 5 is Piglet Poo Pirate Captain. Non-foils around $250, and cold foils are around $4. So, like, in my opinion, get the cold foils. It's $1.50 more. And I think this card is really good, and it's because on the back of the preview card we saw, which was Daisy, which I think is one of the most broken cards we've seen in Lorcana. So 1 mana, 1/4 that quests for 2, that each opponent reveals the top card of their library. And if it's a character, they add it to their hand. Otherwise, they bottom that card. And if you just go Daisy, Piglet, and let's say like a turn 3 Ariel, you're questing for 5 on turn 3, and your Daisy has already quested you for 4 the previous turn. You're at 9 lore on turn 3. That aggro curve is crazy. I'm personally a big fan of the piglets from the Ursula's board game, the Lumineers quest, and those foils are $3. They're technically a little cheaper than the cold foils you can get from packs. And I would recommend getting cold foils either from the Ursula's Lumineer quest or cold foils from packs, because I think the 1, 2, 3 curve is going to be insane, and aggro is definitely eating because of set 5.
Yeah, as we saw with Dallas Fort Worth, one of the bigger Steelsong decks ran Perdita with Piglet, and that was like not only like one of the more like obviously high value combos that you can get with Perdita, because it's a 2-drop that can potentially quest for 3. In fact, it probably will, because by the time you play Perdita, you will likely have 3 characters on the board. Think about it. Like, all it takes, we don't know what's coming in set 5 yet, but all it takes is one more very solid recursion type character that actually brings it to the board, and the floodgates might come off on a turbo aggro deck. We already have some lore support with the Donald Duck. That card's already cheap. Probably a good idea to get your cold foils of that now, because you get the extra lore off of him. Perdita's obviously very strong. I don't know if she's going anywhere. She's very well statted. We know Daisy Duck is going to be relevant, but it does not take much. I think that deck is very close to gaining a lot of consistency. And it just might be like 1 or 2 extra recursion things to where Piglet is just constantly, no matter how many times you kill it, it is just constantly in your ear and in your face.
Yeah, and I don't think you even need the recursion package. I think it's just a good card that like just gains you a bunch of lore. I mean, we've seen decks that kind of go more low to the ground in the Amber Steelsong package, and like I said, just Daisy, Piglet, and then your choice of 3-drop, either Lawrence or Baloo or Ariel, it's just so much lore. You're almost at 10 in 3 turns, which is scary, and it's very hard to deal with, because what are they going to do? Turn 3 brawl, and it's like, well, I have a Piglet, I have a Daisy, and I have an Ariel. Choose you who you want, and I'm still going to be questing for a bunch. And speaking of Ariel, her cold foils are going up a little bit. She's around $13 and counting. Her non-foils are about $5. And I think Ariel is a huge winner of the set, because we just got spoiled a powerhouse of a card in Prince Naveen. Oh my gosh, like, talk about Ariel and Naveen singing songs together and making your opponents cry by how many songs you can sing. No, I mean, it's terrible, right? Dice to Medusa, don't play it.
Don't play it.
But like 4 mana, Singer 6, 3/3 to quest for 2, and I'm sure we'll have an image here somewhere. But when you play this character, you get to play a song of 6 or less for free. I don't know about you, but I love playing Whole New Worlds for 0 mana. So we just eating good, man. Like, it dodges Brawl, sure, it doesn't dodge Medusa, but it's a 4 cost. You could literally play it after your Ariel, after you search the card you need, and you don't have to even tap one of your dudes to sing the song. You just play it for free, which now means you can tap your guys to quest to gain lore. It's just such tempo value. It's insane. It's so good. Amber is looking very scary next set.
Obviously, we are all reacting to just the about half of the set that has been released so far. I think we're only about 5 or 6 legends in at this point. There's still another 6 or so legendaries to be revealed. We might be a little ahead of ourselves, but Amber looks so strong. It is insane, which kind of leads me to another thing, which is if you haven't kind of invested in some of your Amber Steelsong foils, for example, your Strengths, your Storm Rage Ons, your Zeus's, it might be time, because those are still on the rise. Foil strength is still ridiculously high. Remember, it was played in Emerald Steel very heavily. It's probably one of the most reliable kill spells they had, and it might potentially drop in the setting of Emerald Steel going away. And if it does, I would say pounce, because they're all just going to go right into Amber Steelsong.
Yeah, I think the big thing that we're trying to hark on is that, look, DLC Vegas is coming up, and it takes time to get cards. And once we get full set 5 spoilers and see everything, people are going to be buying up these cards because they want to test their decks before Vegas. If you're even considering getting any sort of meta staple card, especially if it's in cold foil, I would recommend doing it right now, right yesterday, right a week ago, because it's going to explode. I'm pretty sure, we don't know the numbers, but I'm going to bet money that DLC Vegas will be the biggest Lorcana challenge because it's in Vegas. It's also going to be the first time we see set 5 cards, and people want to buy out their cards right now. And as soon as the spoilers are done, they're going to be adding all the cards to their TCG cart and then sending them to their house, so that way they can get them quick as possible to test them as quick as possible. And if you're thinking about getting your staples or some of the cards that we have talked about, I would do it sooner rather than later if you're able to.
All right. Well, Dylan, thank you so much for joining me tonight. Any parting words, any additional parting words for our lovely audience?
Yes, I would like to say that we have started a Discord for our community members out there. So if you love to hear this kind of content and want to keep up on it, besides, liking, subscribing, and, ring-a-ding-dinging that bell, we will have a Discord. Link will be in the description below. Come join our community. Come talk about deck discussions and just hanging out and having a really chill vibe and talking with us. And of course, we will be at DLC Vegas. I think all of Team and Ambitions, if I'm not incorrect. Please come say hi. I'd love to talk to our fans, hang out. I'll sign your baby and kiss your cards or whatever you want, So yeah, link in the description below for that Discord. Please join us. We are all active community members there. General deck discussions, even merch. We have playmats, sleeves. We're going to do t-shirts. So yeah, full on support and say hi to us at DLC Vegas. Other than that, it's always a pleasure hanging out with you, Senor Doctor of Lorcana, and I'll catch you next time.
Thank you, Dylan. We will catch you all next time for our preview of Set 5. You all have a good night.
Good night. Bye.